just come off my little bike here, and lo and behold, here was David Gray sitting on a bench drinking coffee. And lo and behold, we have this beautiful church recording equipment sitting here. And I thought, hey, maybe David will talk to me. And so David Gray is here, which we're really glad about. So my first question, which is odd because usually you're the one firing the questions and other people are getting uncomfortable. But my first question is tough. How are you?
It is the tough question, isn't it? First of all, hello to everybody out there. And John, thanks for coming to visit me in the park. How am I? I like everybody else. I have to do a daily check-in. I do a check-in with the people I work with. Somebody told me recently that there's no wrong way to feel right now. And I think everybody's aware that a little bit of COVID crabbiness is kicking in with a lot of people. I know I certainly have moments of that. When all of this started, and it occurred to me just the other morning that we're 3 months into this in Canada now. 3 months since the first case showed up, well, third week of January. And I think when I started out, like most people, I was being really good. I kind of felt a sense of purpose about what I was doing. I got to tell people about how these things is affecting our lives, which has been pretty profound. But as the time has gone on and we're getting into this third month, there's times that are difficult. I know a lot of people who've checked out of the news completely, who frankly don't even turn on the radio anymore, don't turn on the television, though we've never had more people listen. But I think people listen to us not because they need the latest COVID update. They listen to us because we're a sense of normalcy in their lives. We're voices that they heard before this happened. We're with them now through this, and we intend to be there when it's over. So I think people tune in just because they need some sense of routine in their lives again. I think that's probably the main reason. And we try to be relatively optimistic because we are relatively optimistic people by nature. And the best thing I think we do these days is we play music. We ask people for their happy songs, and some of the suggestions have been absolutely fantastic.
I think it was 2 weeks ago we talked about the apocalypse or the book of Revelation. What that is it's about what's being revealed. What was hidden that we're now seeing? And that's exactly what you're talking about. How is it that getting more meat out is the priority? Doesn't matter about health of workers, or what does it say to us when the elderly in our society are not all treated equally or with good intention? So, the good news and the bad news for me in that is it's forcing us to look in the mirror, and some of what we're seeing we don't like. So, my hope is that some of that's going to change. But there's got to be an anger and a frustration first that leads to action, I think.
Well, I think the anger's there. And I hear it in people's voices. And we're in this strange situation where we still don't fully understand what this virus is or how it affects people. And because there's a lack of good information, there's a hole that is being filled with misinformation and half-truths and memes on the internet, and frankly, crap that people are choosing to believe that are coming from sources that they shouldn't be reading or shouldn't be allowing to enter into their lives. I had a person pull me aside the other day and say, when are we going to stop living under this doctatorship? What's with all those doctors telling us what we can do?
Oh, boy.
How do you answer something like that? Well, I asked one of the doctors on our show, Dr. Raj Bhardwaj, and he said, well, people who say that have never lived under a dictatorship, so they don't really know what's actually going on or what it's like to live in that kind of a situation. Yes, this is hard. It's hard on everybody. Yes, I worry about the economy just like everybody else does. I really feel for the small businesses, the small business owners. I was just talking a couple of hours ago. I was out for a walk, and I talked to a friend of mine who owns a brew pub just on the other side of the river, and they're shut down right now. They'd only been open for a few months when this hit. Now, bless her, she's taken what she has and used her resources, and they're making hand sanitizer now, and they're handing that out. When I see somebody who's actually doing something instead of just sitting at home watching television, popping his head out the door occasionally and complaining, this is a test. This is a test of all of us. This is a test of resilience. This is a test of character, and how we pass that test, people are going to talk about into the future. Yeah. So people should be aware of that and how they're acting at this time.
One of the things when you say about doctatorships is look at the women doctors who are leading in all the places across the country with smarts, with wisdom, with compassion, with kindness, with intelligence. These are pretty amazing women who are leading us here and places like New Zealand, around the world, with a kind of leadership that these women bring. And I think that's quite exciting for us too. For me, when I do write a sermon, I have people in my head, people in the congregation, people in the world, and some of those faces are on the pews of the church, the congregation. That helps me have a relationship with them as I think about what I want to write and what I want to say. Is anybody in your head when you do your show? Anybody's good or bad or indifferent?
I hear from the people who listen to my show. I hear from them all the time. I get a lot of messages during the show, good, bad, and otherwise. But who am I actually talking to? It's a great question. Depends. Sometimes it depends on the story. Sometimes I'm trying to talk to the kids, even the ones who are asleep while the show's on. Sometimes I'm trying to talk to the seniors. And let me just say that the greatest generation has impressed the hell out of me through this, more than anybody else. I'll tell you a quick story. There's a fella who sent us an email very early on in the coverage, and he just said, look, I listen to the show all the time. Thanks for being a regular, normal part of my day, and I'd like to read you this poem. That was the email, and then we checked the voicemail, and there was him reading a poem, and it was this. The poem was nice. It was upbeat. It was optimistic, but his voice was unbelievable.
Huh.
And he said that his name was Alan Monk, and I'd never heard of Alan Monk before. But we called him up after the show. I actually Googled him. And turns out Alan Monk was one of Canada's most famous opera singers of a different era. Shakespearean actor, member of the Order of Canada. He's in a senior's residence now.
Huh?
He leads Holloway Hootenannies, where everyone comes out to their doors and they tell their stories. And he memorizes poems. He doesn't just read them, he memorizes them.
Oh, boy.
So we dubbed him our Ovid of COVID. And every week now, every Monday, we check in with him. And he's memorized a new poem and he delivers it. He's a pretty awesome guy. His wife lives nearby in a center because she needs more care, and he can't go visit her right now. But he still talks to her all the time. And he seems to lift the spirits not only of the people where he lives, but a lot of people in our show right now. So I don't know how I got down that track, but you're asking who I talk to. I'm hoping there's more Alan Monks out there.
Yeah.
And on some stories, I'm trying to talk to those people who just might be flipping through the dial, and I'm trying to be something other than what they're hearing on talk television from the United States.
Right.
Or from elsewhere. One of the roles of the CBC, of course, we play a moderating effect in the current of political life in Canada. And they don't have that in the United States. There's sort of no middle ground. There's no one middle place where people can go that they trust and agree on. And I know some people yell at the CBC. Heck, I yell at the CBC sometimes. But I think we play that role in this country, and I think we're all better for it.
When I think of this coming Sunday, we're going to be talking about the 23rd Psalm, which is "The Lord is my shepherd," which is often pegged as a piece we love to hear at funerals. It is a story about God imaged as a shepherd leading up and down mountains and providing a sense of comfort, providing food and presence. You know, when we were in Argentina 3 years ago cycling,
Yep.
Rick every morning would gather us before we'd head off on our bike ride, and he'd give us some kind of check-in to us. And I remember the one day he said, you know, we're going to be climbing a big hill today, and I want you to go around the circle and say something about what helps you climb hills, what helps you rise to the challenge before you. What advice do you have for people who feel like they're climbing a hill right now?
Well, of course, the first one is you're not alone. We're all climbing that hill together. I worry that the people in their isolation magnify their problems and forget that there are others out there who are not only going through the same thing, but people that you can actually reach out to and talk to about it. I have to remember that in my own life.
Yeah.
To reach out to friends and help them balance when I get a little bit wonky, to use a word my father used to love. Because occasionally I do get a little wonky. I'm filling myself up with a lot of negative news in the morning. When I talk to people, I feel what they're saying, and I can bring that home in a bag, and I need to learn to find a way to set that aside sometimes.
How do you do that?
For me, it's exercise. That's what works for me.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own way. I pick up a musical instrument and I play guitar, or have a friend over on the front porch and we sing songs together. That makes a difference for me. And apparently I cook these days, not very well, but I cook a lot. Anybody else eating way too much bread? I saw,
Over here.
Blame Julie Van Rosendahl. She got me making that no-knead bread, and it's got to stop soon, John.
Yeah.
There's the COVID-25 out there that I'm starting to become aware of. And the other thing about the shepherd, I'll just say this, and I don't mean to make light of your story because it's an important one, but if there's a shepherd out there listening, I could use a shearing very severely right about
There you
now.
go.
So.
I want to know do you look forward to the day when Angela says, there is a traffic jam on the Deerfoot?
Angela and Jenny in the afternoons are they're struggling right now because no, there's nothing going on in traffic. One of the parts of the show that we've had to change completely is we always have these little breaks in the show where we play a little music from a local musician who's playing in a local club, any kind of a performer. Maybe it's a theater break, and people get to hear that sound, and it gives a break for us, and it's kind of a nice moment. There's nothing going on in town. I don't know about you, but in your conversations, but people are running out of things to say. Hey, what's new? Yeah, me too. And that's a problem on the show. So we've discovered that there's a woman who has an Instagram account that has actually grown to 70 or 80,000 followers. And what she does is she cleans, and she does it really well. And it's called Go Clean Co. And we now have her do little bits of advice about cleaning stuff. And I hadn't realized that there's an entire generation or two out there that don't have a clue how to properly clean anything. I've learned a lot from her, and I think other people are as well. So,
When you just, off the top of your head, when you think of the last 6 weeks, you said, what sticks out as somebody you talked to or something? We talked about COVID and economics and politics and education and health and relationships. Is there anything that sticks out that's sort of a bright spark of wisdom?
a spark of wisdom. That's tough, John, because I try to find that from everybody I talk to, and I learn stuff all the time. I may not retain it all, but I learn stuff an awful lot from people. My Ovid of COVID, I learned a lot from him about just remembering to park some of your worries at the front door. The seniors keep impressing the hell out of me.
Just a quick one. How's your mom?
She's okay.
They're good.
I went for a long walk today with my friend Ken. We walked from my part of town, which is not far from the church, all the way over to Elbow Park.
Nice.
Give her a wave in the front porch. Had the usual conversation. What's new? Me neither. And turned around and walked home. So she and Ian are doing fine. Thanks for checking in. But in terms of the inspirational folks I've talked to, I think it's mostly, it's been the scientists. It's been an immunologist from the University of Calgary who stays calm and looks at the numbers and will calmly project where we are and where we think we're going. We're all looking for a compass through all of this. You have a lot of people calling you, I'm sure, asking you to be their compass right now, John. We're all looking for a compass through all of this. And for me, it's the scientists who are giving me real hope that we're going to get through this, and sooner or later we won't be talking with a bicycle between us, and maybe we can actually share a bottle of wine. Is it just me, or is there less wine in bottles of wine lately?
It seems to disappear quicker.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Very, very last question. We really appreciate that you and Kim pop in and be part of Hillhurst. There's lots of things you could do on a Sunday morning. There's so many things to do. But it's a question somebody asked me today. Why does he sometimes come to Hillhurst? What is it that is important to you about dropping in a church? I know your dad was an Anglican priest, or is, but what is it about going to a church that is important to you, if there is anything?
First of all, I mentioned Kim, who's my anchor through everything I do. We met almost 30 years ago walking the West Coast Trail. And that hike has never stopped, and we continue. But we walk down to the church when we do. We go for our own. Kim, I won't speak for her because I'm sure she goes for her own reasons. But for me, one, it's nice to watch somebody else work the microphone. I kind of enjoy sitting back. I like the fact that you provoke ideas and thought, John. So that's the main reason I go. But the reason I go, even if it's anybody talking, is for the simple act of congregation. And it's the thing I miss the most right now, sitting in a room full of people who are looking for answers and have their own opinions and bring together a sense of caring and well-being. We're all missing that in our lives right now. So that's the reason I go when I go.
Yeah. I want to thank you for that. You can't really do justice to religion or spirituality on your own. It means that we are connected. And being disconnected right now is hard, and people are finding ways to connect. And I think the wisdom of what you shared, that is we're not alone in this. And I think we got to remember that in the middle of the night or late afternoon in a park. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, John. Stay safe, everyone.